Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Helping Friendly podcast. We're here. RJ, I'm with Jonathan, Megan, and back with Brian. Hey, guys.
What up?
Hey.
Howdy.
We're here.
I just want to say Brian was missed by the chat last week, so I hope that those people
thanks,
are back
chat.
this week to say, "Oh, good, Brian's back."
Yeah,
thanks,
And
chat.
if they didn't,
I appreciate it.
if they don't, I've said it. Oh,
You
good,
said
Brian's
I-
back.
Were you calling Jonathan chat?
No, I was calling the chat.
Oh,
I
okay.
was thinking the chat.
I was
Okay, I
thinking the
thought you were
chat.
calling him chat, which would be weird.
No, that would be
That's
very
what you do
weird.
when you're streamers. You just refer to the people in the chat as
As
chat.
As a
Okay.
blob of
It's
people.
like it's a collective now.
It's not like a Chad, but a chat. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're here.
It's a funny story, though. Sorry.
I think
But
we've
since you
lost.
just
We've
said
lost one viewer already. So here we
Since you
are.
just said it. I used to call my brother Chad as an insult. And
Yeah.
it caught on that my mom started calling him Chad, and she still calls him Chad to this very day. And she doesn't know that it's an insult. And so he's always like, "Mom, what the fuck are you doing?" And I just laugh inside. It's great.
So good.
All right, so we are here to talk about the second half of Phish tour, Spring Tour 2023. Luckily, I have access to Brian's secret list of jams, rankings of jams from
Ooh.
2023 so far. So I'm not going to spoil it, and it's a constant changing note on
Very
Mac.
scientific list.
I get every time I open my notes app, because I use that for tracking most of my life. There's a new change in either the Goose Jam of the year or the Phish Jam of the year, at least daily. Which
I'm on a
appreciate.
sprint right now to try to finish both so that I can get back to listening to other music, because there's just too much good jam band music in my life right now.
And everyone
I'm
knows
so
that you
behind
can't
on
listen
Goose.
to it. And you can't listen to music unless you rank all the music before you.
It's the only way to do it.
True.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
All
important.
right, Brian, you didn't get a chance to join us last week with Cam, which, by the way, having Cam on was so great. And a couple of people who
fun.
listened were like, you should have Cam on in character sometime. And I think that could be,
Oh, that's a good
maybe we should do
idea.
that as like a segment where we like bring him on and be like, what'd you think of the show last night? And he'd be like, eh.
Not that I'm opposed, but aren't some of his characters basically us at various times?
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Fair enough.
It's true.
Fair enough. Brian, the only thing you missed last week was giving us a one-word answer to describe the tour so far.
Oh yeah, that was a good feature. Let's see how you handle it.
Brian, what do you have before we get into the final three shows? What do you have for a one word to describe the tour? Maybe do the first part before we get into the second part.
Yeah, one word or less.
Damn it, because I have 2 words, but I'll give you one. And if you
I
don't
use
like it,
2.
I'll give you the other one. My one word is ethereal, which is like the music critic's favorite word to go down. When I think about the jamming style of this overall tour, this is obviously way more than one word, so I'm sorry. But like that is where my head goes. It
At least you didn't
feels
say
like
incendiary.
I was texting with good friend of the pod, Justin Bruce, about this tour, and I said that the best jams of this tour make you feel like you've reached a place in the universe where you are staring at the Laniakea structure, which we were a part of. That is what the Milky Way galaxy is a part of. It's this giant cluster of galaxies and objects. It's beautiful. Look it up on Google if you've never seen it, and it just feels like we're looking at that.
Okay.
Brian's one word is just the best, right?
It is really good.
I was
I
like
feel-
400. I'm sorry.
I feel very disappointed in myself for my one word, which I can't even remember anymore.
Jonathan's was good.
But what was Jonathan's?
Good.
Oh yeah, good.
Good.
Brian,
He's not wrong. It was very good.
It was good.
But I guess I
know.
just used 2 words there. So
the most animated that Jonathan got in last week's episode was when I described the Sea of Stars jam as Dark Star like.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
I know.
The song is Dark Star like. It's Phish's Dark Star. Come on. Stop this.
So lame.
That's
It
not
doesn't
good.
have to
It's
be
not like
Fish's
that.
Dark Star. It could just be Fish's Beneath the Sea of Stars.
That's
Sure.
what it is, but it's also there.
That's
When has
a
Phish
little bit
ever
like
written a
Dark Star.
song that feels like you're going through a wormhole like Matthew McConaughey and you come out on the other side crying because you realize that eons have passed around you? That's what you need to
Slave
see
to the
as stars
Traffic
always
Light,
does.
Harry Hood. I mean, I got more. Come on.
Those songs are more earthbound to me, but I know what you're saying.
Hey, man, I think you're earthbound.
Glenn, who's watching on YouTube, thanks, Glenn, for watching. He said, just for those listening, you guys used to do recaps day after the show. I like this new format, but I miss the immediacy of the next day's show. And I kind of, I think we talked about why we didn't do the next day recaps. And I think it's just because we couldn't figure it out logistically. But maybe we should try for Summer Tour to do quick hits the next day.
We'll
I think we
see.
should.
Some of
We'll
us got
see.
shit to do, which is part of why we didn't do it this time.
I will
But-
agree with Glenn.
Okay.
I miss
Yeah.
it. I loved.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
Loved,
A lot
loved,
of people have
loved.
said that too.
And last summer when we started doing like before the show, and then
Oh,
we
that
do
was
set
so
break.
fun.
Jonathan and
Although
I
I was-
jumped on at
oh.
one point for an emergency set break because I forget what happened. I think that they jammed Mole, and we were like, we just
Something,
have to
yeah.
talk about this. And
No, they had a repeat. They did a repeat.
oh, it was
First
when they
repeat,
started the
yeah.
repeats. You're right.
Yeah,
and we were like, shit,
yeah.
we have to do an emergency pod. Those
Serious
were
I was
fun.
kind
emergency.
of drunk though on one of those pre-show hangs.
That was kind of the point, though,
wasn't it?
They
Yeah,
were
it
really
was.
fun. Yeah,
We would
they were
play
really
like-
fun.
I definitely was every time I went on, which maybe
yeah,
was only
they were
once.
so fun. But like
We would
could
play,
do- yeah.
I'm gonna see if we still have it. Where is this? Oh yeah, we would play like we play music.
You were able to pull that up like shockingly fast.
Jeez,
That
I
was
know my
really,
way
really
around
fun.
StreamYard.
do you still have all your tabs open from last year?
I mean,
I-
I remember
I
we
have
used to do
windows
them.
that cannot be closed.
We used to do them like
So stressful.
I recorded one on vacation. I was, at a
Yeah.
lake house in Vermont and recorded one like couple years ago, and they used to last 5 minutes. So those were pretty fun too.
Those are pre-Brian days.
I've enjoyed kind of surfing through the various formats, but we'll see what we land on this summer.
I'm
I don't think
working
there
this
was-
summer. I'm on board.
Okay. All right. Glenn, thank you for bringing that up because we obviously had not discussed it before the show. So,
Thank you for joining our team meeting, everyone.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Team
exactly.
chat.
It's pretty
Team
much
chat.
how we go. Team chat. Hey, Tom.
Okay. So, what else? Okay. Jonathan and Megan, has anything changed from your one word from last time we talked?
Go ahead.
No, but I do think that like this comment that Matt says that Phish is back, just kidding, they never left, is something that I feel like I just totally agree with. I feel like people are always waiting for this band to be like done, and then they come and deliver a tour like this, and they're like, okay, they're still fucking great, and you're like, they've always have been. Always have been. But I do
mean-
think it's interesting thinking about how different Mexico was.
I have some slight pushback on that, but I will share that as we get into this because it accompanies my larger thoughts on this tour.
Okay.
I think that the Phish is back thing made sense, and I feel like I said it with kind of certainty, like I meant it when I said it like 10 years ago. Phish came back in 2009, and there were some ups and downs and wandering in the weeds until they really just started to like cement a new, fresher sound, and they've continued to have ups and downs because they're Phish. But as far as my one word for the rest of this tour, I think that that one word was good previously. Now I'm going to go with pretty good.
This is scintillating. Okay. Well, Brian, I hope you listened to last week's episode. Well, actually, you didn't have to because I forwarded you the email that we got from Kevin Shapiro about the 10/21/95 essay that he put out with the archival release. That's the only other thing you missed, and I'm not sure why I'm recapping the whole episode for you, but
It's important to do that before you
I
proceed
listened
to our
on
next meeting.
I listened on a run, but I do like director's cuts of movies, so that's just kind of what you're doing right now, and I'm into it. We should do a live analyzing of past podcasts to celebrate the 10th
Oh
anniversary
man,
of HF
that would
Pod.
be
Analyze,
would be-
analyze HF Pod.
Wow. Yeah, that's terrifying.
all right.
I had a bad take there. Bad take. Let me update myself.
I got plenty of those.
Steely Tom, I agree with what Steely Tom's saying, which is that they never
Yeah.
left, but this run hit a little different. Not sure how to describe it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this, and I think what Jonathan said, the ups and downs are part of the band. And when we get back to the 40 for 40 series, we're about to jump into kind of the crux of that. Like 1996 was that original, like, wait, where is this band going moment. And then 1997 was, oh, the fire has been lit again for a lot of different fans. I think a lot of it comes down to personal taste and what you're looking for out of the music. And a lot of it comes down to where you are as a listener. But I think a lot of it also comes down to this band is constantly bringing in new technology, bringing in new approaches, fucking with whatever is working, because if whatever is working continues working, it becomes stale. And sometimes when they mess around with whatever's working, it doesn't work as well. And for me personally, parts of 2022 did not work as well to my ears. I could go on forever about Alpine and Dix, but I'll spare you all. You've heard that here in other places. I felt very uh, uh, I felt a sense of belief and love for this band over the New Year's run that I
Mhm.
hadn't felt in about 10 or 12 months at that point in time. Mexico, I had some I really enjoyed the jams. I didn't love the shows overall. This tour, I felt the same way about this tour that I had felt about fall 2021. And so
Mm.
that may just be me, that may be the band, but I think to the point that you made, Jonathan, that's really strong is like they're always going to go through these ups and downs. You may meet them at a down period or perceived down period and really like it. You may meet them at a peak and really not like it. There's a lot of fans that are on record not loving 1997. There are other fans, Megan, who say it's the greatest year of Phish ever, right or wrong. So like ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about your perception of them, but it's also about them constantly trying new things out. And for me as a listener, and I think for a lot of other people, this spring tour felt like a meeting of those things they were testing out worked in the same way that it has at other perceived peak periods. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
and
for
I
my
think
TED
it's
talk.
I think it's also about expectations too. I think the expectations, like we always talk about for this band, are so high, and you can't always meet those highest expectations. But they do a lot, and when they do, they hit them really well. And I think they did on the spring tour.
Well, here's Haps. It was great to meet you in Nashville. Yes, I was just gonna say actually, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Always Almost There, rival podcast on the
Are we
Osiris.
now the after show?
we-
This is
wait,
hilarious.
Yeah, we're basically the after
The
show.
after show, okay.
Yeah, which is not,
I prefer
I think
elder
it's
show.
more like headliner, maybe.
no. It's
I
more
just
after show.
feel
We're like
I
feel
late
just-
like
night.
I'm having a Kendall Roman moment hanging out with Matson right now where he's like, "You're fucking tribute band." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, what the fuck? What is happening?"
We're the what was it when the late night shows had like one of the people and then it was like the late show, came after, I'm very good at TV and pop culture, as you know.
super good, I can tell.
But we're like or
Super
maybe
good.
we're the people at the cutting room, from 2 to 4 a.m. Either way, Always Almost There, doing a great job doing what Glenn suggested, which is recapping every show the day after except for a different band. So anyway, okay.
Anna asking if this podcast has a bathroom recap.
No.
No.
we
Well,
have
we have
in the
bathrooms in our
past,
homes where we webcast shows from, and we can talk about those.
Yep.
set break
And
shower
room
is
that
an
needs to be
important
updated.
part.
Set
of
break
most
shower we've
home
talked about.
webcasts, Yeah.
Mhm.
we
But
also
no, we've
Cereal,
had
set break cereal.
people
Talked about
on the
that.
show in the day after recaps who talk about the bathroom situation at the shows sometimes when it's newsworthy. Sometimes it's not, which is great. In fact, I completely left that out of the Seattle recap. My friend Marty, I gave his scene report of the venue. He said that the bathrooms in the club level were immaculate and very easy, no lines all night long, both nights. So there you go.
all right.
Bathroom report.
Ryan, please convince Ryan to end the bathroom recap from his co-host Neil.
Wow,
Thank you
Neil.
for bringing this on
I
to
feel like you can do it, Neil.
onto the
You
podcast.
got it.
All right, we're
This
gonna,
is serious.
let's get into that offline. I think that may be an important Osiris business that we
Well,
can,
also-
we can pass over to.
And
that.
Neil, you're gonna have to register as a lobbyist if you want to do this kind of stuff on our show. All right. So
We do have a
let's-
cheese recap.
Let's try to talk about Phish just for a second, see what happens. All right. They came to Hollywood Bowl April 21st. That was the first of 3 shows. This is I feel like this, it's very patient. And I think maybe that's where you're getting to with Ethereal, Brian. But, this 421 show opens, and I think pretty much immediately we get into, Sigma Oasis, but definitely Everything's Right has a nice, like, just different sonic space that feels very chill and laid back. And I guess my first question is there a West Coast sound? Like, I think when we were in Mexico, I think it's sort of like, do we feel like it's different here because we're like in Mexico, we're on the beach, the wind's blowing? Is there like a California vibe, and can you hear it here, or is this just where Phish's music is? I guess that's a question that can't be answered, but you should try.
I think that there is. I felt it from like the start of the run in Seattle when the lights drop and you
Felt
almost
the California vibe in Seattle.
well, the West Coast vibe.
West
where-
Coast. Come on,
where-
Jonathan. Let the
where
man
the
talk.
lights drop.
It's all about the sushi.
It is true. And RJ, I feel like we felt this when we were at the San Francisco shows in fall 21, where the lights drop and there's not that rush of energy and that like people losing their minds like they do at MSG, or I imagine Hampton, or even as far west as Dick's. It's you guys are here, we're hanging, it's a good vibe. And the band almost walks out, not to silence, but like not to that rage. And I feel when I listen to it that the band meets the audience in that sort of standpoint, where they don't feel a need to dive in with an absolute raging opener, an absolute raging set, and they don't feel the need, and this is just my perception, that they don't feel the need to like elevate the already, heightened anticipation, and they can kind of settle in. And that, I thought, with these Hollywood Bowl shows led to just a lot of those like magical musical spaces where creativity kind of just like unfurls before you, and it doesn't really matter how long it goes, it doesn't really matter what direction it goes in. The band is just kind of like testing out ideas and like testing out different directions. And so I definitely hear it, but that could also just be that like I see where they're playing and I know that the show is happening here, and so like I'm throwing that onto it, but who knows.
I was definitely taken aback by that feeling when I first saw Phish out west. It was totally different than what I'd seen in the Midwest. Like the energy of the crowd, the lot, the vibes in the space. It's just, yeah, like Brian's saying, it's just super laid back. It's cool. That's why I've been dying to get back to the West Coast. I am not missing some of the next West Coast run. I'm getting out there. There's just a laid back and a kind of like, yeah, there's just more space out west, right? And so you feel that in the music, and I definitely felt that. I think these jams are so patient. It's incredible.
I think the band was just ready when they got to Hollywood Bowl, so it didn't matter. I know that when the lights went down, first night Seattle tour opener, the audience was loud. I know this from talking to people who were there. So, but by the time, maybe the Hollywood Bowl crowd was a little more chill. Those famous Hollywood stars are not easily phased. So, it's just Phish. But the band came to play.
I just want to acknowledge Glenn's comment here. Fewest chompers I've heard at a show in a long time. Ryan Storm, again, we will keep referring to Ryan. He said, I think he posted on social media today that the San Francisco Goose Show had a lot of people talking. So maybe it's not.
I heard that about the Greek.
Yeah.
So,
maybe it's just Bay Area people. It's just like there's just too much stuff going on with tech, maybe LA. I feel like LA, but
a lot
LA
of deals
fans
being drawn.
but LA fans,
their banks are falling apart. They're just trying to figure out how to hold on, and like they just have these 3 nights of Phish, and they got to talk through it all,
But LA fans get such a bad rap in terms of sports and a lot of things because it just seems like it's just like everything's so casual and passing. But okay, this Everything's Right is.
I disagree with. I understand the perception, but it's a great world city, LA. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like they put an Asian city, like a mega city, in America. It's beautiful.
Well, I don't know where we go with that, but I want to just declare.
This is geographic corner. Sorry.
I just want to declare. I want to declare Wave of Hope the jam of the post-COVID era. Not that
You're
COVID's
so
over.
into Wave of Hope.
That, but
you are so into Wave of Hope.
Every time I play it, it's amazing. It's so this set closer, this Wave of Hope, it
It's
just
so
gets
short
out there.
though. It's like a throwaway. It's only 14 minutes. Like, come on. It's like they didn't really do anything with
They
it.
didn't do anything with it. I mean, they get. I don't know if it's the riff, the tempo. I don't know what it is, but it's such a great way to close the set. That was my highlight of this set. Even though the Everything's Right was really cool too, more patient. I think a little more like ethereal. But this Wave of Hope really like pushed out into some weird places. And man, what a great! I would take like a Wave of Hope, like a closer like this that gets kind of out there than like Walls of the Cave or Anna, like something more peaky to close a set.
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
closing
yeah.
the set with something weird.
Well, and
I
it kind of
agree.
reflects where a lot of, and this will totally be, this is going to be wrong when we start talking about the Saturday Night Show and what I loved about it, but it kind of, is where the band is at right now, is they're loving putting these new songs in really prominent places. And so like a song like Wave of
Mhm.
Hope, it had a spot like this at Dick's 2022. I think it was only an 8-minute version, but it was clearly elevated the way that they played the song late in the second set. They wanted to build up that energy. This is, almost twice as long, but kind of gets to the same place where rather than exploring a ton of terrain, they just find a riff and they build upon that, and they're just building energy. For me, this first set was all about the Everything's Right. You said it really well there, RJ, using my words. But it was very patient, very, very beautiful. And it kind of did what the Mr. Completely does from the third night of the run. And I was texting with a couple friends about this. Like, as I heard it, they were going to a very standard place in Phish jamming, which is find a major key and build it to a really satisfying peak. But they were finding ways to get to that peak that I hadn't heard them doing before, with a lot of really cool staccato lines from Trey, with Fishman playing as though he was in like a space jazz band, with Page on the Rhodes a lot, with Mike just like adding these beautiful effects and beautiful lines through his new bass he was playing. It was a peaking major key Phish jam that sounded completely brand new, and that whole, like, that aspect of the Everything's Right and a few other jams just blew me away through this tour.
Yeah, Everything's Right, I think, is my highlight for this set. I love it. And love the way it lands in shade. Love it, another song I really, really enjoy. And I think that's ideal placement after a kind of big, serious jam.
Right.
I would say that Fishman has always been in a what did you call it? A space band. You just said this, Brian. I
It's
had it
like
in
a
my head.
jazz space.
Yeah, space jazz band.
Space
He
jazz, yeah.
has always been in a space jazz band, even when he's walking down the street by himself.
Can I just before we go, Ryan, I can't stop talking about Ryan today, but I think
God, enough with that guy.
when I said that Wave of Hope is the MVP of the post-COVID era, he said RJ what LMAO. I don't know what that means, but he said that, and I just want to say to you, Ryan, and to anyone listening, they've played Wave of Hope 14 times. It will, after this tour, have 7 jam chart entries. Name another song that has a 500 batting average on jam charts. Just do it. Find one and bring it
Ruby
to me.
Waves.
Yeah,
But
set your
but
soul
I
free.
see your point.
But
I
it's
see
the
your
same
point.
thing, right?
I
It's
don't
kinda
think
the
Ruby
You're
same.
right.
Waves does. I don't think Ruby Waves does.
It might
Fine.
be
You want,
close.
you want me to
But-
you want me
but
to
you know
check
what?
this out right now? I can check the
Yes.
stats.
RJ, we can go to the streets for this one.
We're gonna
We
have
can
a
go to the
very
streets.
special episode.
I'll make the posters. We can go on our Wave of Hope protest tour. Okay.
All right. If you guys, come on, give me a break.
I agree.
I just
I
want
have
to
a brand new
object to
puppy. I
the
just have a
math
brand new puppy
requirement.
named Ruby. So just don't come at me with Ruby Waves.
Ruby Waves
haven't
is
done my
exactly
research.
500 batting average.
Okay,
See, they're
well,
the
I didn't.
same.
I was asking
I
Ryan
would've-
Storm to come at me with stats, not you.
Well, he can't. He doesn't know Phish stats. He tells. You want me to show you the text where he says it's so hard to understand a good Phish show from a bad Phish show? Come on.
No, that's not nice.
Okay, private.
He tells me.
obviously.
I have the text.
All right, we can move on. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
So anyway, what do you guys think of set 2?
They played another set.
Exactly.
This is a great set. Like, Down with Disease is huge. Great throwaway sample in the opener slot for the free YouTube people. Ha! Suck it, YouTubers. I mean, obviously, everybody watching YouTube with us today, you're cool.
You're
I mean,
awesome.
the other people. The Down with Disease rips and is just, I mean, it's outstanding. And then they come back later on with this Blaze On. I mean, You Enjoy Myself is not there was a good long moment where You Enjoy Myself was almost always the longest song in 3.0. Not here. It's like number
Yeah.
3 on this set.
Right.
So good. Not that I don't like a good extended You Enjoy Myself, of course. Yeah, very cool. Very cool set.
There's so
Well, and
many
this
good
set's-
moments in this set too. I think. Sorry,
Everything's
Brian.
Right has been played 45 times and has 15 jam chart entries, Ryan. Come on. Okay. Down with Disease.
To
someone-
Matthew.
Anyway,
Someone-
I
someone-
was saying.
Yes, please, Megan. Please go. Please continue.
Okay, so the Down with Disease, we were talking last week about Trey's singing, and it was funny because what I was thinking about and like reflecting on it and thinking that, he doesn't do it enough to like bother me. Like it's not like something that stands out. And then I was listening to this Disease and Trey sings like the second line or something in his falsetto, and I was like, oh God, just don't like mess with my disease. Like don't do that here. And then he stopped, so it was okay. But like this jam is awesome. There's a lot of that like eerie effect, which is like that tension that we were talking about last week. That's like when he's going between that and his like really gorgeous tone, and how like that creates this like tension. And I think that's working so well, and also making some of that kind of ethereal space you're talking about, Brian, that like going between those two tones is like so cool. And it has that like dark spaceship sounds at the ending. I loved it. And then there's Mercury, which is like actually played pretty well. I think that like
Yeah.
that was, I
Nailed
felt
it.
like, yeah, they nailed it, which is great. And this Blaze On's awesome. It's effortless, 12 minutes. It's like dancey, funky when you get to that point. And Mike sounds amazing on this gorgeous piece.
Yeah, I found, this Disease was my highlight of this show
Me too.
and one of my highlights of the overall tour. I don't want to get into numbers here because I know that some people on this call don't like numbers, but I have it very high up in my favorite jams of 2023 thus far. And part of it is this, the Set Your Soul Free, the Fuego from the Greek. All three of these jams get into this very dark, demented, kind of terrifying space. And the band, it almost sounds like a melt jam, but there's like more riffage going on than more like sonic washes of sound. And so I love that kind of fusion. I was listening back to like one of my favorite jams of the year is the Mexico Ruby Waves. And the more I hear this tour and that jam, the more I hear personally that jam as like a turning point in the overall year, where the band figured out a way to mesh this split open and melt kind of wash of sound with more melodic playing and riffing and more that kind of like really interesting duel between Mike and Trey when they kind of are going back and forth from each other and challenging each other, reminiscent of like the Nashville Ghost from 2018. And this Disease got to that space where it was just like mechanical and industrial, kind of terrifying. But then like, 2 songs later, you get to the Blaze On and it kind of works similar to the way that the Everything's Right did, where like it's a beautiful build. I think it's 18 minutes. Like it's just, it's a really solid journey and exploration. I'm just looking at the set list right now. It's wild. Like you have Sample and Cavern on either ends, pretty classic opener, very, very classic closer. And then you have this 4-song run of Disease, Mercury, Blaze On, You Enjoy Myself. I'm not really a 4-song, like I love 4-song sets, but like you chop off the start and end of it, you have just like a perfect 50, 60 minutes of music. Great song selection, great playing throughout. It's just, it's a really fluid set. It's awesome stuff.
I mean, the yam even sounded good. There's like some extra sauce in that. It was good.
Yeah.
They did not come back after the vocal jam, though.
I know that hasn't happened now.
Minus 5 points. Can I just say that because I'm keeping score, I have a scorecard, but can I just say that Mercury not being jammed is like it's like a legitimate disappointment of mine.
Yeah, it's
You
weird.
know, it's too bad, but I gotta say they've had some Mercuries recently that didn't go super well. They were
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
like
Very
going the
messy.
way
Why
of
I get
Fuego.
nervous when they play it now. Yeah.
So let's see them play it well again,
Right.
it'll come back for jams.
Um,
I think. I mean, I feel like Mercury is written and exists to open the door into jams, but
Totally.
when they play it and it doesn't go well, they bail.
Well,
I
I
feel
think
like
to
it's
that
like
point, go ahead.
I feel like it's like a modern. It's the most composed song that they've
Oh yeah.
released in the past
Yeah,
10,
absolutely.
15 years, right? So
Well,
it's like
since Fuego
since Fuego, yeah. And it just feels like it's
or
I don't know.
I'll
I'm
fucking
big
think.
on like there's something about I think because of listening to a lot of Goose, there's a lot of tempo changes in songs, like and that's like messing with me in terms of what I think works for jams, even though it doesn't that's not how it works. It's like you can work like you can jam at different tempos, but you know what I mean? Like there's something about that song that just like there's also a natural end to it. So it's almost like when Sample was jammed at MSG, it's like you have to like say like, okay, now when the song ends, like
Like push through.
we're gonna push through it as opposed to like Blaze On or something was just like it's just open.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to your point as well, if you remember in summer 2015, it debuted the second night of tour, and then they didn't play it again for 12, 13 shows until Alpine Valley 8/8. And it was clear they were sound checking it throughout the tour. And then they came out with it again, and it had a slightly different transition to the Nets Unbreakable segment. Like they were trying to figure out how do we play this right. And for the next 3 years, it didn't really jam. It wasn't until fall 2018 that it stretched out. It was Chicago 18. You got your first extended version, and then the Vegas 18 version is 25 minutes and is beautiful. And then 2019 is filled with huge Mercuries. I kind of would just like for them now to play it as well as they did at Hollywood Bowl and then figure it out again, because
Exactly.
to me, personally, the two best Phish songs since the hiatus in 1.0 are Sense and Subtle Sounds and Mercury. And both of those songs like deserve to be played with like the caringest of hands.
Yeah, it sounded really good. I was really happy with how it sounded.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I was gonna say it's a little like Gaiuti in its journey, which it came out, hit, it took a little retooling, hit again, and then took a little back seat. And maybe that's what's happening with Mercury. There's these a number of songs that stopped jamming and have come back towards it. I won't name names other than say Split Open and Melt. Is really. It's huge these days, but there was definitely a time where not only were they not jamming it, but they were not even playing it that well. And I really do think that they've got to feel like they've gotten through the song without any points going, oh shit, what am I doing with this thing in my hands? And if they can get through the song without that feeling, then maybe they'll jam.
Yeah.
Glenn, your point. The pro is that they can jam in after out of any song, and the con is when they don't jam that song again, folks are disappointed. Maybe
that's a good
try not to
transition
be-
tonight
I
too.
try not to be that person, but Mercury is the one thing I'll say that about.
To Glenn's point, though, I mean, I think that yes, they can jam out of any song, and to like the people who look at the Tweezer night at the Greek and say, well, they could do this any night. It's not really that they can or can't. It's that when it feels right, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel
It's
right,
magic.
I mean, all of the guys in the Dead used to say the same thing. The guys in Phish say this, at various interviews over the years. Is when if they're thinking about what they're doing, when they're up in their head about their performance, it's not flowing. It's not going to happen. When they're not thinking about it, that's when they can go there. So,
which is
some nights it's
kind of what we were
some nights
talking
it's
about.
easier. Some nights it's not.
That's kind of what we were talking about at the top of the episode of like the perception of, is this is the band back, or is this a better tour than other tours? I think one thing you're leaning into is kind of the eternal enigma with this band, and the Dead had this as well, and other bands have had this, but like Trey talks so often about, when they play a really good show, he remembers nothing about it when he walks off stage. Fishman walks off stage is just like, that was it. It felt like 2 minutes. And I think a lot of that is that when they're in that zone, they're not thinking and they're just kind of doing. And so they're not thinking we're going to try to do a 45-minute jam. They're just playing. And when they finish a jam segment, they hear something else and they follow that. And that goes on for 8 minutes. And so then they follow that on again. And I think you got a lot of that on this tour. And Mercury may just be a song similar to like it rhymes with Schmabed Schmoey that they're thinking a lot about right now. And so we're not seeing the,
Yeah.
you know,
The opening to the portal, like in the
yeah.
momentness, like that's like when I used to act on stage. If I was in a scene where I was so in the moment and I was only reacting to the person on stage with me, and I didn't even feel like I was performing anymore, I'm just reacting to that person. There's a
Mm.
zone that you go into, and that's when like truly great art is created. And that's what these guys do. And it comes from listening and putting your attention outside of yourself and just responding to that person and being in that moment. And that's what these guys can do so well. That's so magical. And yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's incredible.
Also,
I
I think
mean-
they sometimes just like to play songs.
Yeah.
They are a
that's
rock
also
band.
true.
Yeah.
also
They
true.
do like to play songs, and they're really good at it too. Like the next night on Saturday at the Hollywood Bowl.
Let's get into it.
Good
Tell us about
transition
it.
there. That was a
Let's
nice
do it.
segue.
Thanks.
Yeah, you own
Thanks,
this.
guys.
Tell us all about it.
Go ahead, Megan. Tell us about it. What
Oh,
happened?
me? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love this show. The show is so awesome. The set list was just like incredible. I remember watching this, like, I didn't stay up to watch these shows. So I get up the next morning and look at the set list and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what happened? This is so perfect. It's just like great jams too. The flow in the show is just absolutely perfect. It's just, this show to me is like, this is the show that I'm sad that I missed out of these three. Like, my favorite jam, I think, from the whole run is in the third night, but I really, really loved this show. The first set is ridiculous. I mean, Ghost, Bowie, Esther, Hood, meet, split open and melt, leaves, coil. Like the Ghost is just absolutely beautifully played. Trey's using great effects. Then going in between that and his tone again, it's just rip roaring. There's so much energy. It's super powerful. The Bowie is like, what the speed of this Bowie is just incredible. There's all these like extra fills, and Fishman's using his like new samples, and I don't know what the new samples are. Has anybody heard what they're saying?
Isn't there a Monty
remember if it's
Python
new-
one in there?
Is that what
It's,
it is?
Life of Brian stuff.
It's
Yeah.
Life of Brian.
Yeah. I
Hail
can't hear it.
Caesar. Things like that.
So good, but they sound like perfect in this Bowie. They're so funny. Yeah, and I like the little jam and Hood too. But I mean, I think the split open and melt is just my highlight from this set for sure. It's just beautiful, like searching, patient jam, super weird, not melodic, just awesome.
I stayed up to watch
You
this first
did?
set, just the first set, because I'm not crazy, and I do enjoy sleep. But I was texting with Brian during this because I knew he'd be awake, and they open with Ghost. Okay, cool, and a decent little Ghost. It doesn't go
Mhm.
super deep, but it says just everything you said about it, Megan. I agree with. And then they drop into Bowie, and it's like, oh shit. They must have known. This is what I wrote to Brian. He could testify. They must have known I was going to watch.
I'm staying up. I know it.
And then they proceed to execute the shortest David Bowie that
And
I
how
can recall.
long?
So
Yeah,
fast.
I want to know how long it's been that
Eight-
short.
I don't know.
yet.
This one was under 9 minutes. It was 8:59 on Live Fish. It's so fast, so breakneck. Technically, they played it, but there was like the door didn't open a crack. It was just like fly through. Now we're done with David Bowie, and I was like, okay, well that's cool. Then Esther, wow, nicely executed Esther.
Yeah,
Harry
perfect.
Hood,
Very nice.
touch of jam and Harry Hood. It was pretty. Meat was meat, and it was actually kind of rare and cool to see. Split open and melt is where it started to happen, right?
Yeah.
Just as you
Mhm.
said, Megan, this is probably my jam highlight of the set. But yeah, it got nice and weird, not too long. What a great set. Leaves
And
was real good.
Leaves-
Don't think I'm leaving that out. And beautiful coiled.
good.
And just I like what a great kick down kind of set.
And I feel like to end a set at the Hollywood Bowl with Squirming Coil, and like have everybody walk off like that. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, this is.
Can I just say,
Sorry.
Brian, before you
Yeah,
get into the set, I just want to say one thing about ghost openers, which is that there were first set ghost openers back in the day, especially from like 12/5/97, which I was at, and I think the 7/31/97, 7/21/97. There were like some ghost openers, but then they stopped for a while, and they started them again. Dick's 2013 and Dick's 2019 were like the two ghost first set openers, the first time since 98. 2013 was,
Wow.
and then 2019, and now it's like it happens more frequently, but they do it every couple of years, but I like it when it comes out and just starts. It reminds me
Yes.
always, Megan, of Virginia Beach 97, because that like
Yes.
just came out of the gate like huge
So powerful.
celebration, and I just think it's like a real power move to come out of the gate with Ghost first set opener. And like
Yes.
it they did it a long time ago, then it went away for a while, now they do it again, and that's the story. Sorry, Brian.
I tag that. I really love the energy that it creates in the audience when it happens.
Totally.
When they drop the
Yeah.
first couple, I mean, there's a number of songs that do it, of course, and it's all a little different. When they drop Ghost at the very top of the show, people are like, yes, and they
They're
are
like,
suddenly
yes.
ready to get down, and that's always just a nice vibe in the crowd.
Yeah, it's one of those openers that like it just sets a tone right out the gates. And I
Yep.
almost prefer it if it's going to be played in the first set in the opener slot versus like second or third song, even though there's
Yeah.
been great versions of it, but like just the way that, you're expecting, a rock song just to open things up. And immediately you're thrown into a rock song that's also kind of a funk song, that's also really creepy, that's also a jammer. Like there's just a lot of options that are happening when they do that. This show overall is my favorite show of the year so far. I think that you have this combination of the first set really reminds me of August 12th, 2018 from Merriweather Post, the faux summer tour closer before the festival that will not be named, where they came out and they played like, they ended the first set with like Chalk Dust, Gin, Tweezer, Llama, in some order like
God.
that, where it was just like, what are you like? How are you playing? Like essentially, Phish
It's
doesn't
like
have
banger, banger, banger.
yeah, like Phish doesn't have
Yeah.
like a greatest hits album, but if they put out a greatest hits album, like those 4 songs are on it. And I feel like
Yeah.
everything on this in this set is on it as well. Like in what universe are you ever guessing that this is going to be a first set you're going to see? The highlight for me was the Split Open and Melt followed by Leaves. Split Open and Melt does similar things to what the Mexico version did, which was similar things to what all the great melts have done over the last 5 years at this point in time, since late 2017. It's just the best usage of their effects and their toys and space and atmosphere and noise. And then to follow up with Leaves, and Leaves being the only non 1.0 song played in this set. And it's this beautiful kind of ode to David Bowie, and it's this beautiful like story, and it's like the chorus of it. I had a huge moment with this song at Alpine 22 last year. Every time I hear this song, I just get like really, really worked up. It's a gorgeous, like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whenever Phish is done, I know I just said the dreaded words there, but whenever it's over, there's going to be like a revisiting of these songs that were written late in their career or whatever stage we're at this point in time. And I feel like people like are going to go back and listen to Leaves the way that I go back and I listen to like Brent Midland songs, where I'm just like, this
Yeah.
is really, really special that this was added into this band's catalog, where these like top tier songs, and then you hear these deep, deep cuts that just showcase artistry and songwriting on a totally different level.
It's a stunning, stunning song. So powerful.
It's a great song. This second set opens with Chalk Dust, which like is there a better way to open a set than a 25-minute unfinished Chalk Dust? I'm not sure.
I mean,
My soul
possibly.
into a 44-minute tweezer.
My soul.
My soul. Hilarious. This Chalk Dust is really very, very like methodical in that it's pretty patient, you know, the chalk dust, and then it at the very end we get to like, I think, I don't know, I didn't count them, but like one of the few like real bliss peaks of this tour. Like there haven't been that many. I mean, they happen, but they're not. It's not the go-to at every show. But this one really hits at the end, and then the second set is Trey's really playing well, and it's just seems like they're having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
this-
mean,
Go ahead,
what a way to
Jonathan.
blow a show. You know, play this amazing first set and then just kind of whiff for set two, I guess, right? No.
Third and fourth quarter, you know, that's how it
Whew.
goes.
Too bad. This one's pretty good. I haven't given this set actually the closest of listens. I've listened to it, but like while driving and stuff. So, you know, obviously I'm trying to watch the car at the same time, and it's trickier during music like this. But just an immense listen, and like so many great grooves and moments throughout that I'm going to be revisiting for a bit.
I just
This- mhm.
sorry, just real quick before you go, Megan, I just want to say Ryan Storm again mentioned
God,
the
that guy.
Baker's dozen chalk test. Tom, like 2 years ago, Tom asked me to make him a playlist of my 5 favorite Phish jams of all time, and this is the only 3.0 jam that made it on the Baker's dozen chalk dust. Possibly one of the best jams of all time. I mean, top 5 for me.
I loved this jam in person, and ever since then it's stunning.
So good. Okay, sorry, Megan.
Yeah, I love this set, and I think that it does have a lot of re-listen. I think the flow is like perfect. This chalk dust jam is so good. It's like super delicate, and to me, I was just thinking about the variety of that. They're not really relying on the same tricks over and over again in these jams. Like they're using a lot of their new toys, but they don't sound really repetitive. And Mike's playing just like some super interesting stuff. Paige comes in the piano. Fishman sounds incredible, and then they go into that kind of like distorted, really dark sounds, and has like a great rocking end and landing like so nicely in Twist. And Twist has like a really fun, like sultry, funky jam to it that I
Yeah.
really love. It's
Yeah.
really good. Like it's not long, but it's like if you listen, I've listened to it a few times. It's very, very good. And then it goes into this just absolutely sick 2001, one of my favorite Phish songs that they play. Well, not their song, but you know, and it's funky and they're like flirting with that like stop and start. And you can just hear Trey and Paige like in conversation, and the synths in this just like, I just love this. I think I texted you guys. I was in the grocery store and I was like trying to keep my shit together because I was just like wanting to like get down. It was so good. And then going into Sneak and Sally, which is,
Oof.
come on.
Probably
like,
my favorite call
my-
of the entire tour. Like
oh
that.
my God. Oh
They
my
could have gone
God.
into anything and it would have been a great whatever. Okay, cool. We just had an amazing 45 minutes of music. And instead they go into Sneak and Sally. And I think it was the best Sneak and Sally in 5 years. It was
Oh my
unbelievable.
God, it's so good. There's like a huge dramatic build and there's like these rocking peaks at the end. They do like a mini vocal jam, which like clearly they've been listening to 40 for 40 or someone's telling them about it because we were talking about how they were doing this in the old days in Sally, and it's so good. And it just, they sound like lit up. And this song is just, I love this song so much. RJ, I love dancing with this song to you in Raleigh this summer. Like this song, just like it just gets down. And yeah, this is great. And then going into Life Beyond the Dream, which is like definitely one of my new favorite songs that they have.
It's the best.
Gorgeous, incredible
best.
lyrics, just absolutely stunning. I think that Trey, like these lyrics are really just like next level for him. And
Can I
again,
interrupt you, Megan?
Please
Just my
do.
friend Jim just logged on, the one who just said Sneak and Sally. He was my friend who I took to that show.
Oh
in Raleigh,
yes.
who
Hey
was with
Jim,
us.
that was so fun.
So fun. And I want to say, I think they were listening to 40 for 40 and Undermine, where we talked about the Sneak and Sally bust out on 12/30/97,
Mhm.
Best ever.
which happened right before this tour. So clearly that's why they.
So
Yeah.
if they're listening, that explains why they went the other way on the David Bowie and played the shortest Bowie in memory.
to fuck
just
with
to
us.
fuck with me.
They're trolling with us. They're
Yeah,
trolling
hey
us.
Fish, we've just been looking for an 8-minute Bowie this whole time. You guys are
Yeah.
But
that
that's
was
exactly
amazing.
what we
Like,
wanted. The shorter
show
the
us
Bowie, the
else we
better.
can do with
Shorter
that
the better.
song. Come on.
Yeah.
Great.
Shorter the
Yeah, yeah.
better.
Give us a 4-minute, Bowie. Come on. can
Nobody
you
even
do
likes
it?
that song anyway. And one of them, no version of that song is on my top 5 jams of all time. That's for sure.
None whatsoever. Shout out to the MVP who's probably sitting backstage somewhere. Don't even try to come on right now, Ryan. Okay, we just don't do that. But
Had enough
hanging
with that
out,
guy.
Don't
the
you do it.
best Sally
Don't
since
do it.
2016. That is very spot on. That is that version. If any of you are unfamiliar, summer 2016 gets a bum rap for a lot of reasons in the Phish world. That jam, it's like 18 minutes long, and it just peaks and then peaks and then peaks and then peaks. It's unbelievable stuff. But yeah, this whole
I
segment,
love that Ryan knows the way to your heart, Brian, which is to go and just bust out a stat. Best version since X, overlooked show. Great play, Ryan. To stay in Brian's good graces.
he knows how to do it. It's great.
He
He's
does.
it's good stuff. But this whole segment of chalked us through Back on the Train, it's just and Back on the Train, I thought in the moment was kind of a weird call, and it's been played late in the second set a bunch this year, and it ultimately worked. It was a really cool version. They kind of went out there. Life Beyond the Dream is a great little breather at that point. I love the lyrics to that song. Very, very, I mean, anything off of Ghost of the Forest, with the exception of a few songs, I'm like here for every time. First Tube, excellent set closer. The one question I have for you guys, Chalked as Torture. I loved this jam. I love this jam. There was a moment watching the webcast, and I've found it since listening back to this. I don't know the exact timestamp, but it's around like 12 to 15 minutes, that kind of spacious segment where if you watch the webcast, Trey keeps looking back at Fishman, and Trey and Fishman are not aligned. And I'm curious if you guys noticed it listening. I'm curious if anyone in the chat noticed it. The thing I love about this jam is it feels like the first time the entire tour that the two of them are not in sync with each other. And Fishman's trying to play this kind of really complicated beat, and Trey is he's trying to go more towards a melody, and it's almost like he's like, stay with me, dude. And Fishman's just like, kind of trust me, it's okay. And they don't connect for about 3 or 4 minutes, but the jam goes on for 8 minutes after that. So clearly they worked through whatever it was they were working through. I don't know if any of you guys heard it or if this is just where my ears went at this moment, but it was just something I noticed. It wasn't necessarily something like I didn't not like it about this. It was something I noticed as listening to it.
I feel like you don't catch so much of that when you don't watch it on the webcast. You know, like I feel like when you watch a show and stream it, you see so much more of what's going on between them. And I didn't hear that listening back, but
Fair.
Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I've already disclaimed my my
You were
unreliable
asleep at
witness
that point.
situation.
We got in person. I noticed some technical issues through the weekend. So maybe that's what, maybe it was just
Yeah.
like, I know that there was a point where, I don't know who it was, but someone had to come up and replace Trey's in-ear monitors literally on the webcast. It was Trey was playing and singing, and someone was behind him taking his
No way.
earpieces out. I think his monitor wasn't turned on at some point, but it was a very, I've never seen anything like it. It's the risks of these in-ear
It's,
monitors that like
Mm.
helps them, but also, if one's turned off, everything's messed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are bound to be adjustments. So Trey is, we heard him tell Ari that, he's got his guitar rig more or less dialed in. He's got his tone where he wants. He's swapping in, toys here and there, but he's got that dialed in. And that's great because that means he's worrying about that infinitely less. See earlier comments about not worrying about your gear. Obviously, the in-ears, it's not like they're new technology, but things go wrong.
New to the band.
It's new to the
Mhm.
band this year as a whole. Even though Paige has been using them forever, but things don't always go perfect. And good thing they've got a crack crew. And let me take this moment in anybody who, unless you're an Instagram abstainer, you should go to Trey's Instagram if you haven't been seeing these things and check out his little "What Are You Doing" series of videos where he talks to various crew members, and they are all educational and delightful. And he started doing it in Mexico, I believe.
Hmm.
I don't think he'd done it before Mexico, but he was doing it there. And it's great to kind of learn about all the different people and all of the different jobs. And to John Joseph's question in the chat, when did the band start in-ear monitors? The whole band went to them. And I think Trey was the last holdout, maybe Phish also. I don't know about Phish. This year at Mexico. But Page has been using them since the 90s. So they've
Blame
been
Goose.
around. And sorry?
I'm just saying. I said
Blame
blame
it on the
Goose.
goose. Blame it
Goose.
on the
It could
goose.
happen.
Well,
It can
I
happen with
mean,
that tour.
yeah, he used them there. But like first time with Phish, which is great. I blame Goose for lots of things, but that's not for this podcast.
On that note, let's move on to night
Yeah.
3 of the Hollywood Bowl.
Do you guys like my
Sunday
return?
evening. I loved your
great.
return.
Yeah.
Sunday evening, a little bit of an earlier start. I appreciated this on a Sunday night following 10 days of webcasting Midwest and West Coast Phish and Goose shows, which has been exhausting in a great way. So much good music, but I was glad to see an earlier show start here on Sunday. This set begins with Birds of a Feather, goes into Roger, Megan's favorite Phish song, which goes into Divided Sky, which is perfect at sunset, which goes into Cities, into Tube, into Taste, into About to Run. I liked this set a lot overall. I thought it felt like that palate cleanser that kind of comes after a really good show, where not a lot of stunning song selections aside from Cities. But speaking of, my favorite moment of the overall show, and one of my favorite moments of the overall tour, and one of my favorites of the overall year, this Cities Jam.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
It's great.
Yeah.
Talk about
It's
wall of
amazing.
sound, talk
Yep.
atmospheric, talk Split Open and Melt being the song to influence this direction the band is going in. Even if that's not the case, it sounds like it is. This Cities is one of those songs. I'm sure you guys will all agree. Maybe you won't. Who knows? I love Roger. Cities is one of those songs that, like, I just don't care when they play it, where they play it. I'm always here for it.
100% agree.
I have like vivid memories of when I was still just getting into Phish, buying Slip, Stitch, and Pass, and putting it on and having no idea what Cities was. I had no idea who the Talking Heads were, and you just hear that, and they go into it, and I was like, this song fucking rules. And then I later find out this is a Talking Head song. This is a big bust out. The song is actually really fast. Phish slowed it down.
A lot.
Did you know I got
a
my
lot.
first city this summer in Atlantic City? That's the first
did
time I ever
not.
heard them play that. Yes.
That
Isn't
is
that
crazy.
crazy?
Noob. Oh my
I
god.
is
know.
crazy.
I know.
How did you get this job? Never seen
I
a
don't know.
Cities.
It's a
Jesus
little
Christ.
unclear. It's a little unclear how I got this job. But this Cities is definitely one of my highlights of the whole tour. It's incredible. I can't believe this jam is in set 1. Like, it's just such a set 2 jam. It's just so strong, and Trey's tone is so in the pocket. It starts out so like melodic and then gets really like dark and super funky and spacey and weird. And then the way Trey comes in at the end, just like soaring all over it. It's just, and then it ends just really perfectly. I love this jam. I've listened to this just as much as the Tweezer.
Wow.
It's my second favorite jam of the Hollywood Bowl. One of my favorite jams of the overall year. It's very inventive, very creative. Friend of the pod, good friend to anyone who likes to have intelligent Phish conversations. Mr. Ben Greenfield was at these shows. Going into the shows, he said, "I've never seen a good Phish show in LA. Can you convince me I'm going to see a good Phish show in LA?" And I was like, I feel like you're going to see a good Phish show in LA. And I got a lot of like, holy fucking shit texts all weekend long. But like
Yes.
none bigger than during the Cities, where he was just like, what is happening? And I
Nice.
felt the same way from the couch.
Yeah.
I think, Brian, I disagree with your assessment of the set, but I think this
Sure.
jam is amazing. I think this set
Tell-
is totally fine. It's like, Divided Sky, which is my wife's favorite song to hear, which is great. Other than
Good
that,
choice.
it's like five 7-minute songs, all 7 minutes.
Yep.
It was like they were timing them with a stopwatch, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a 7-minute song, but to me, like we can get into this later, or maybe we got into it in the past. A 7-minute song
Both.
like Birds of a Feather or Tube or Taste is like an unfinished idea. That's kind of
I don't disagree with that. I don't
that's
disagree
my
with
take.
that.
And I could be I hope people
Sometimes.
do disagree because that's part of the deal. But like
I mean,
it's a fine set.
sometimes you need an unfinished idea after big ideas.
Well, I don't know about that exactly, but I mean, see my earlier comments about sometimes they like to play
Yeah.
songs.
And
And
Taste is
here
like
it is. This
perfectly
is the
played.
last show of tour. And, they didn't go no repeats, which I'm totally on board for. Some songs
Yes.
are worth playing more than
Yeah.
once, especially when they're hitting, like Wave of Hope, right, RJ? But
Absolutely.
but I
no
think
no repeats is like it's so low on my priority list.
no, yeah, no.
Same.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't think
I
anybody
needed it one
here
time,
has that
and then
problem.
I'm not. I don't need it anymore. It was great
Yeah.
at the Baker's Dozen.
Yeah.
I was not a huge fan. I didn't think it worked very well.
I
in
don't
fall
think it
2019,
matters.
No,
Like
no,
I'm
it
not
doesn't
and I
chasing
was
anything.
glad. No, just
Man,
just play songs that work, man. Don't just like
it's like
don't
Yeah,
uncourse
don't worry
some
about
shit
that.
here. Settle
I
down,
know.
everybody. We're all on the same team here.
Fucking fuck this.
I know we all have a lot
But
of
we like
thoughts on
all
this.
agree about it.
But I'm still trying to talk about this set and
Okay,
say
go ahead.
that I'm kind of right in between you guys. So I think this set is.
Wait, are you saying you don't like interruptions that digress? Sorry, go ahead.
I do. I live for them. That's why I'm here. I think it's my job. It's in my job description. But I think I'm right in between you, Brian, and you, RJ, on this this set. I think it is a fine and even good set. I think that it would be nice if Birds of a Feather jammed out, but we got a pretty Roger. We Divided Sky is perfect, pretty perfect, and Cities is great. Be
Tube
nice
is
if
good too.
Tube jammed out, but
It's good, though.
I like Taste, and I think that Taste is not bad. It's just not long. But when have we had a long Taste? So it's fine.
And
Besides,
it's not a song that they play a lot, and it's perfectly played.
and we also have a set 2. So
I played a
I'll
second
They
set.
do.
yeah, they played a second set.
Oh,
I would finish by
hold on.
saying that the
I'll come back
Cities,
in an hour.
the Cities is real good, and
Really good.
you guys have said everything that I think needs to be said about it.
But just kidding. All right, we gotta.
Now, let me talk. Let me kick us off in set 2, and then you guys can. We'll hear how everybody
Perfect.
feels about it. So, set 2 has it's Mr. Completely, right? So this is what we all need, right? A big Mr. Completely into a song I heard the ocean sing. Back into Mr. Completely for a second. Little Wolfman's Brother and Ruby Waves, Got a Jaboo, No Quarter, Possum, like a fairly nonstop second set. And great encore, Wilson Slave to the Traffic Light. I got to say, this Mr. Completely song I heard the ocean sing is super dope. I think I texted you guys something about it on Wednesday when I was really listening to it, and something to the effect of, I don't know. I was just, it was blowing my mind. And because this is really good shit right here. I don't think that's a technical phrase, but yeah, this is where I think here's what I said. Actually, I said about a song I heard the ocean sing, which is like a crazy, super fast and short version compared to what they'd just done with Mr. Completely. But this one was so fast and kind of funky that if the next song I heard the ocean sing doesn't go into Shakedown Street, there's really no point in playing it again. Like that.
This is another criminal unperformer in terms of jams. I'm sorry
Mhm.
for Glenn.
In terms of jams
this-
and actually in terms of performance,
Yeah.
like they just don't quite play it enough.
Yeah. Such a great song.
But when they
Such a great
play
song.
it, I mean, you think about it's only been played 44 times. Last summer was the last time it was played. Hartford 33 shows ago.
Jam chart version.
Very, very jam chart
Mhm.
version coming out of that. I think the best A Wave of Hope that's been played thus far.
Here we go.
Oh yeah.
now we're
that-
talking.
Now we're talking, bro.
Mexico right
I'm just-
before that, also a jam chart. Not right before, but 5 months before that, the previous version, also a jam.
Oh
chart
yeah, it's
version.
that ended a
Mhm.
4-song second set. I'm just looking back here. There's one. Oh yeah, Baker's Dozen 7:30, 2017, Jimmy's Night, Drowned into a Song I Heard the Ocean Sing. My favorite segment of the entire Baker's Dozen, some of the creepiest music I've ever heard. Trey going, Jimmy, 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 over like just weird mechanical music
Oh
before
God, I
they
haven't
go into
listened to that in a
Harpua.
while. I want to go back to
That
that.
was such a great night. Wow.
Yeah.
And then
Amazing.
the version no one talks about, late in the Soul Planet third set on New Year's Eve 2017, they play a near 20-minute song I Heard the Ocean Sing in the early hours of 2018. It's just, it's amazing, amazing stuff. This song rules.
I want him to
remember
jam the intro.
the like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm into that.
Spend 30 minutes in that, and then just knock out the song and go into Shakedown Street.
It's not a bad idea. I liked this. I liked everything here from Mr. Completely Through Ruby Waves. To my ears, Got a Jaboo, No Quarter, Possum. I'm not going to go back to it. It was fine. It was just kind of song followed by song followed by song. RJ's favorite song closing out the final set of the tour.
So fun.
RJ just like kind of
So fun.
high kicking and dancing like this, just being like,
Never heard
dancing
Possum.
to Possum. Never heard Possum before. It was very fitting that they ended set 2 of Alpine Night 3 with Possum. But we've heard enough about that show, haven't we? I thought this Mr. Completely was, I think I said this earlier, but whatever. We're on a podcast. I can repeat myself. Nobody's editing me. This was then in line with the, with the Everything's Right from night 1, where it gets to a very standard place, a very expected Phish place. And standard is not an insult. This is Phish peaking a jam is one of the appeals of this band historically, but it does it in a way that, to Jonathan's point, it's very dope. It is not the way that you are supposed to get there. Like, you're supposed to just find a riff and traverse like the mountaintop and get to the peak and everyone celebrates. And the whole time you're like, wait, but they're kind of playing these like melodic bubbles and this like music here and there, and it's all like sparkly, and it's not like this direct rock and roll vibe, and it just it rules. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. Lisa, I thought you were so cool. I still do in some ways. But
You're awesome, Lisa.
They told us about the origin of the universe.
But I do get it. It's like
show.
it's a thing that
you got to read the comments so the listeners at home not watching us know what's going on. Ryan Storm tells us that his mom would like
who's
to
also
chime
watching,
in.
by the way.
Hi, Lisa.
Who's on a West Coast Goose tour with Ryan.
Doing the coolest thing possible.
They're the coolest.
I would.
I mean,
I
7:30,
until I can do this with
finds that
I
her
know, I
least, is
love
her least
this.
favorite. You guys are not even going to let me read the whole comment.
No,
That's
no.
nice.
Sorry.
Nope.
But the poor people at home are like, what the fuck are they talking about? Jesus Christ. Carry on.
Explicit on this one. Can I say something about set 2?
No,
Sure,
we don't
Yeah,
hear
go
from
ahead.
you.
You have something to
Go
say?
ahead, RJ.
Fishman loves the drum beat of Mr. Completely. And I wonder in like
Yeah, he does.
the times where he and Russ have hung out, like I wonder if they've talked about this, because anytime Phish plays Mr. Completely, like they go into a different song and then Fishman's just still playing it the whole time. Like he rarely moves away from it, which I think is part of the reason they go back into it sometimes. And I just think it's like, it's awesome. He clearly like really likes that.
To your point,
Yeah.
the Powdered Night second set, my favorite set of the whole Baker's Dozen, they're playing Carini, and about 8 minutes in, Fishman starts playing the Mr. Completely riff, and the Carini is 13 minutes long, and Fishman's just like ba ba da ba da ba da ba 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 da ba da ba da ba da ba, and then finally Trey's like, okay, I finished the Carini, we're going
Fine.
into Mr. Completely now.
So I just want to say that one, like the mid second set, Wolfman's Brother, to me is like, it's a really exciting call, like that they're
Yes.
just willing and able to throw, like setlist convention out the window. I mean, we know that they will do that, but I think in the past year or so, we've seen more kind of like adherence to a conventional first set, second set within. I mean, there'd been some variation, but like for a couple of years there, it was like, wow, like anything could show up at any time. And I think it's awesome that they throw Wolfman's in there in the middle of the second set, just like because that is serving, I think, the sound that they're all with. This tour has been a lot of experimentation with sound, and that's just such a great vehicle for like putting everyone's sounds on display. And I think it's just that and Jabu are great in this set for just like serving the sound at this point in the tour. And I mean, sorry, Glenn, I don't want to go back to Glenn again, but Glenn keeps picking on this, the song length plus did it jam. I just want to say, first of all, that this is an improvisational band, and we've been trained to focus on their jams since, at least 1993. But that is part of like what we look for. But I think, I think like a 7-minute Got a Jabu in the second set where it's like really serving the sound of the tour. It doesn't matter how long it is. I'm when I talk about song length, for me, it's like when I feel like something's avoided because, or cut short a little bit because it's not serving the sound. So I think there's a nuance there that we're trying to address, but maybe not doing it well.
No, there is. And I mean, I think one of the things that I think the band learned and was trying to go after in early 3.0 was, can we play really interesting improvisational segments in 8 or 9 minutes?
Mhm.
And time again, they've proven that they can. It just so happens that
Hashtag microjams.
it
Yeah.
just so happens
You gotta
that
patent that shit.
Yeah.
there are a lot of moments from this tour where they found a really good segment and then they said, how about another one? How about another one? Let's see where this goes. And that is where you end up with a lot of the gold from this tour, because they just kept pushing. I always return to, with these conversations, to what Page talks about in the It DVD. Hold nothing else that he says against him from that DVD, because this like 30 seconds is absolute brilliance. They're talking about the 46 days from August 3rd, 2003, which is 38 minutes long. A lot of people don't like it, but if you listen to that jam, there's a moment where you get into about 18 to 28 minutes, and it's some of the most stunning music I've ever heard the band play. And they're playing it on the DVD. And Page says, the point of playing these long jams is you are going to get to spaces in music that you would never have found if you hadn't actually pushed further and further and further and further. We talked about this in the 40 for 40 series with the tweezer from Bozeman, Montana. We're going to talk about it probably a lot more as that series evolves and the band goes through an era where they go inward and they stop jamming as much, and then they figure out a way to jam more. So, I will just say my last thought here. You talked about the Wolfman's brother in the second set. To me, this is a hearkening back to one of the early moments in the run. This is only an 8-show run. It's not a full tour, but the Wolfman's brother into Isabella from Seattle
Oh, love that so much.
so much. And for me, the Wave of Hope Golden Age from night one was kind of where I was like, oh man, like I hear something very different going on this tour. But then early in the second night, they play Wolfman's brother, and the bottom just falls out of that song, and it becomes this spacey, beautiful masterpiece that somehow segues into Isabella. And so to play that song again in the second set of the final night of the run, just awesome.
It's also like a little gets into that space funk place that they were doing a lot, like in Atlantic City last summer. And I think that the fact that they can do that and then get into this like really pretty melodic space and have this like incredible ending, it's great. Yeah, this is a really good Wolfman. I mean, I like this set. It's not my favorite, but I think it's good.
I think the only thing that's really missing here, and I want to say this, and then I want to pivot back to another point, is a good Fishman segment. Not enough laughs in these shows. So that's a very, an important element of what makes Phish Phish. And we've been exploring that and fighting over it in the 40 by 40, which is that, it's not just music. Sometimes there's humor, and that's a very big part of their character. So, and I kind of have missed that on this tour. But what are you going to do?
That's interesting.
The other thing is,
sorry, Jonathan, can I just follow up on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
You. So you mean like vacuum, or you mean just?
It doesn't have to be vacuum.
But there hasn't been a lot of.
There hasn't been much Fishman.
It's an interesting.
Like, he's playing the shit out of the drums, and that's awesome. But he always does that. Yep. But I'm also there for the laughs. Yeah. So that's that's a thing. It used to be. It sometimes is. Not enough. I would think that in 8 shows, maybe they didn't feel like Hollywood is the place to do it. Every LA might impress somebody. I don't know.
I bet
But
at MSG they'll do it.
yeah, there you go. The other thing I want to say is to Glenn's comment and why we talk about the jams and the duration is that even though we've still managed to make this last 90 minutes, we don't have time to spend 5 minutes on every 7-minute song
74.
so far.
Yeah, seriously.
We're getting there. We're not done yet.
43% is
It's
generous.
actually very generous.
bold.
All right, one takeaway from the tour from everyone, and then and then we have to go because it's just like legal things.
One takeaway.
Yep.
Phish is back. No, I'm joking. One takeaway
Okay.
is I think that Mike Gordon has figured out a comfortable space to exist in the band's jams again in a way that we haven't said his name a lot on this episode. I think his new bass, his new effects, him spending about 2 years now playing alongside of the effects that Trey had, Trey kind of backing away from the synth pedals. There was a lot more Mike effect on this tour that reminds us that we need the full band for the band to be as good as they can be. And I think that as great as 2021 was and as great as parts of 2022 were, the one downside was that because of the tools Trey was using, Mike was less of a focus. And I felt like there was more of him this tour in a way that, to me, should help them as they move into, this is a really interesting summer tour, some big venues and then MSG. And I'm always kind of thinking like, where's this going? So that's my thought. Also, John Fishman is the greatest drummer on the face of the planet. I will hear no arguments otherwise.
Can I just follow up on that real quick, Brian? Because I think it kind of fucked up the sound a little bit. Like, I think it made them have to readjust things. And I think the band is used to Trey, like, pretty consistently, like, changing the sound. I think, like, the sound revolves around what Trey does and doesn't do, I think. I mean, I don't know.
That's my impression as well.
But I think this had, like, kind of changed like, there were moments where the bass sounded like either it was peaking or you couldn't hear the notes as well, but the improv and the performance that came out of it was great.
We talked a bit last week about Mike's new bass and some of the work that's gone into getting the sound right on that, and I imagine that was still a little bit of a work in progress, and hopefully he's got a tour of his own coming up, so hopefully he'll work further on that and his comfort level in playing with it, so that when Phish reconvenes, it'll work just exactly perfect. And that's kind of my takeaway bit too, is that I feel like that the band was in a really good place, and I hope it continues into the year.
Hope is a dangerous thing.
I mean, I try not to get any expectations up, but hope is fair.
I'm very optimistic about the summer, though. Yeah,
Megan,
I'm very optimistic. My big takeaway is that I really want to go see some West Coast Phish because it's been a really, really long time. And I just like the energy they bring out there. But I thought their set listing to me was really thoughtful in a way that I didn't think it was in Mexico. So I felt really, really good about that. And I just felt like they were tapping into that space that we were talking about earlier a lot. And that's exciting. I like when they're there. So I'm excited for summer.
Jonathan?
Well, I mean, you heard me. I think that they're in a great place, and I'd like to see where it lands. They're all playing very well. Yeah, let's see more of that. Almost wish I had plans to go to summer tour, but I got other shit going on. So
I like webcasting.
Well, if anybody wants to come to New
I
York,
just
I have
like
space
it.
for you.
You hear that, everybody? Megan's got space for you.
Yeah, everybody.
I have
Speaking of webcasting, I like having my own bathroom. I like having
Separate
access to my
showers.
Topo Chicos. I like having my
Topo Chico
kids hang
access.
out for the shows. I mean, none of these venues have Topo Chicos. What the fuck is wrong with all you people? You realize that some of us
Problem.
like to go there and not drink cheap beer? Come on.
I have webcasted 0 shows this year, but I hope to up that to 1 sometime this year.
Come on out to Denver, bro. We have a great webcast setup. You'll love
If I
it.
come out to Denver, I'm coming for concerts. Sorry, no offense to your setup.
We watch concerts on the television and grill food and have kids
It's
run
family
around.
friendly.
I'm
it's
not
the
sure the
best,
adjustment
man.
to the altitude is worth it if I'm not, if I'm just coming to watch concerts on the couch. But
Well, if
maybe
you want to come for dicks, let's do that. Because there's nothing more that I love than RJ in a Columbia soccer jersey losing his mind to backwards down the number line and telling every fan who's not dancing to fuck off in their face with like a giant smile on his face. It's like
that's not
the
true. That's
happiest,
never
like,
happened.
you don't like your favorite band played their
No.
favorite
I
song.
would never say
Get
that
outta
during
here.
the song. I would never say that during the song.
No,
I
you're
would say it
too
after.
busy karate chopping.
I would say it after. I think Paige and Trey, I think the albums that they created recently have created a new synergy between the two of them. That's my main takeaway.
Yeah.
And I might be like reading too much into it, but I feel like they have a thing that is really like a really close connection in the improv this tour that I've been really loving. So
I think it all started when Trey broke into Paige's house and forced him to learn Soul Planet with a film crew in there.
Yeah.
That was when the connection was really born.
It
But
has
speaking of
these 3
Glenn,
chords.
speaking of Glenn, who has now probably been commented or mentioned more times than Ryan Storm.
Oh, until just now, you just
until just now, and I just broke it. Paige is often overlooked. Thought he was fantastic this run.
Yes,
I agree with that, and I think the only reason I didn't mention him is Paige has brought this standard excellence to every Phish run since the Baker's Dozen when he got those new synthesizers, of which I don't know the name of, but Ryan Storm probably does because he's doing an aspiring rig run of Mr. Page McConnell. Could tell me everything that he does. But Page's sounds impacted the band in 2017, 2018, and to today in a way that I don't think he's really added anything new. Not saying he needs to, because I love where his sounds are. Whereas Mike Gordon brought something different to the table here. So that's kind of my only reason for that. Everything Page did was stunning. Like the dude makes you feel like I just went and saw 2001 in the theaters. They showed it one night only at my local cinema.
That's cool.
And the whole time I felt like I was in a Page McConnell jam. Like it was just visually, sonically, it was unbelievable.
Oh my God. Okay,
right.
we have to go.
The Moog Voyagers debuted in 2017. The Moog won in 2019. Prophet Rev 2 added last year. And then Ryan's mom followed up those 3 with saying, thank you all for listening to him. All right. Thank you all for listening to us. We will see you back here next week for 1996. We're going back in time. And
back to LA, baby.
It's going to be interesting.
Get
out your mini kits. It's going to be fun.
I missed that year.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been a blast. See you next week, Ryan.
See you guys.
Bye guys.
See ya.